Understanding visual presentation of your data is exceptionally important in the Microsoft Excel examination. This is especially true of new features. A new feature for the presentation of your data is called conditional formatting. In conditional formatting, we have the ability to color code our cells. Notice on the screen that I have yellow and green codes that have been put up automatically next to my numbers. These are from conditional formatting. I am using a style that is called data bars. Along with data bars, you can also use color scales and icon sets. It is important to understand all three of these terms prior to the examination. Along with working with the data bars, color scales, and icon sets, we can also create individual rules for what items that we would like to see and color, and how we would like them to be actually highlighted. In this particular instance, I have chosen each column to highlight my top and bottom components. In this case, the bottom third is going to have a much smaller line than the top third. Now it is important to understand in conditional formatting that these bars are not interpreting the exact number. There are only three sizes to these bars: the lowest, the middle, and the upper. It is important to understand that component in conditional formatting. A sample question might be, can I format each individual number? The answer is Microsoft Excel will group the numbers into category and then apply conditional formatting to the category. So how does this work? Well, first, I must select the data. You do not want to select your entire table because it would compare these to each other. Our results would not be meaningful. I'm selecting the data and going to conditional format. I can now choose a data bar and choose the coloring. Prior to changing a style, I must clear rules. If you do not clear a rule and go to a second style, you will see that you have both features applied to the selection. If I only want one feature applied to the selection, then I must go to conditional formatting and I must clear the rules from the selected cells before proceeding. If you see a question that asks, can I put a second rule on a document? The answer would be yes. Can I automatically replace conditional formatting with a new rule? The answer would be no. Be careful, as that represents a trick question. In conditional formatting, I have cleared the rules, and now I'd like to put in a color scale. Notice in the color scale, rather than giving me a data bar, it gives me different colors, again representing the three sections: high, low, and in between. If I go to returning customers and once again go to my conditional formatting, I can again turn on a new rule. I'm going to clear my rule from the selected cell, go to my conditional formatting, and this time I'm going to choose an icon set. The icon set I chose gave the interpretation of little graphs on the side. We are now seeing a data bar, an icon set, and the color selection. It is important to remember data bars, color selection or scales, and your icon sets. Keep in mind also that you can indeed have a new rule. If I go to the new rule, it'll allow me to choose whether I'd like a 2-scale color, 3-scale color, data bars, or icon sets. When I choose the coloring, you'll see the interpretation on the screen. I can also set where the midpoint is. Perhaps I do not want the midpoint at 50%. This allows me to go in and choose the number. In this particular case, if I want to choose 123 as my midpoint and return, that will now be the midpoint for the percentile. When I say OK, my data will set the midpoint to 123. Keep in mind again when you're looking at these that it is only 3 levels that are actually being formatted. Very frequently, it causes confusion as we tend to think that it's going to be the exact number that it's graphing, but it is not. That is why on the chart you will notice that we're seeing full charts, empty charts, and a chart that's in between. Conditional formatting is a brand new feature that has been introduced. Along with being able to put on our bars, scales, and sets, we also have the ability to highlight individual items that exceed a certain amount. For instance, I'm going to highlight returning customers, go to conditional formatting, and this time highlight cell rules. I am going to say that if the number is greater than 320, then fill it with a light red text. Now notice in the background you can actually see your results. If I change the number and say, let's say if it's greater than 365, you will again notice that the results are on the screen. I can also change the background color if I'd like it to be red, or just the text red, or a light fill, or even a custom format. Each of these are components that you can do with the greater than. When I'm happy, simply say OK, and you'll notice now that each of the icons that are the largest amounts are now in red. Conditional formatting adds a lot of visual pizzazz to your actual spreadsheet. That's why it's such an important component to learn and understand thoroughly.